We are now watching Ben Shapiro and his take on the debate.
Let's not pretend that what's been going on in the major cities is not caused by Antifa and Black Lives Matter. It is. Nonetheless, Chris Wallace decides to pick up the Democratic talking point that actually it's a bunch of white supremacists in the cities who are actually causing all of this, which again is a...
Just a quick reminder for everybody that Ben Shapiro is a liar and a mouthpiece for white supremacy, especially considering the reality that 93% of the thousands of Black Lives Matter protests that happened all around the country were peaceful. And in the 7% that escalated the violence, in the majority of those 7% of the cases, it escalated into violence because of counter-protesters such as the Proud Boys or the police. They are the ones who escalated otherwise peaceful protesters. Dry Boy Shapiro is, of course, running defense for the Proud Boys because that's his audience. For those who want to see the study that I'm talking about, here it is. This is a ACLA data, Demonstrations of Political Violence in America, new data for summer 2020 study. Wow, we broke it. Oh, there it is. Which side caused billions in property damage? No side caused billions in property damage. In New York City, the damage cited for all the protests was $250,000. Billions of property damage did not happen. And also, if you think that property damage is significant, then you must also assume that like human life, damage to human life is significantly worse than property damage, right? Because obviously you're not crazy. The reason why you care about property damage is because of how it impacts human beings. Like if that's your business, if that's your livelihood, right? So what would you say about the cost to human lives? What kind of cost would you associate with all the Black Lives Matter protesters that got damaged and harmed by police officers who shot at them with projectile weapons, shot tear gas canisters at them? People lost their eyes. People got concussions. They had to be hospitalized. What about the human life that Kyle Rittenhouse took, for example? What about the human life that sparked these protests to begin with? The human life that was taken by police officers that already sparked these protests to begin with, like the Breonna Taylor. That was $12 million in settlement. If you're trying to associate like a negative cost to having these protests to begin with, then you have to look at the root causes of why these protests are happening. And the root causes of why these protests are happening need to be solved. I still hold the police and our authorities responsible for all of the property damage because these protests would not happen if there wasn't all of these pre-existing scars that have yet to heal in this country.
White supremacists are evil. Again, there is no one in America who, I think on a personal level, may have been targeted more than I have been, or who hates white supremacists more than I do. White supremacists are not the cause of the violence that's been happening in America's major cities. It is BLM and Antifa. The fact that Chris Wallace thought that this was the key thing to bring up in debate.
Totally. I thought Ben Shapiro cared about facts and not feelings, but I guess when Ben Shapiro's feelings are hurt by facts, he just refuses to acknowledge them or ignore them otherwise, because what I'm talking about is a study conducted during the George Floyd protests and in the aftermath of the George Floyd protests. But Ben Shapiro is, of course, not going to talk about that because his fifis are hurt.
But that doesn't mean that Trump handles this right. So we're going to play the clip, and then I'm going to actually read you the transcript of the clip. And what you will see is that the media are just lying about what actually happened in this exchange.
Sure, are you prepared to specifically do it?
Well, go ahead, I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it.
Because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing. This is a left-wing problem.
Okay, so the takeaway from the media here is that he is defending white supremacists. Okay, Joe Biden today tweeted out, there's no other way to put it, the president of the United States refused to disavow white supremacists on the debate stage last night. By the way, Joe Biden then put up a picture of Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old from Kenosha who shot 3 people, probably in self-defense by all available evidence.
Oh, okay. Got it. Do you think Ben Shapiro would ever acknowledge the responsibility that someone like Kyle Rittenhouse has? Why do you think he said probably in self-defense instead of saying without a doubt 100% self-defense? Why do you think he feels the need to lawyer up in that circumstance and use that kind of language? If you were so confident that it's self-defense, just say it with your chest, Ben. You're not embarrassed to say that you've never made your wife come or you've never made your wife wet, but you're scared of actually saying that Kyle Rittenhouse 100% without a doubt was doing self-defense? Kind of weird. So what is shocking to me, of course, or not shocking at all, it shouldn't be shocking at all, is that Ben Shapiro is going out to bat for a dude who literally drove 30 minutes over state borders to go and defend someone else's property to get a legal kill, and actually got that legal kill that he was looking for at a time when the same people motivating him and others all around the country, the Boogaloo Boys, had killed a federal law enforcement officer, a federal agent in California. A lot of those Boogaloo Boys are white supremacists, openly so. So participating in that, I feel like, and engaging in that action, and then actually getting that kill, you probably should take a little bit more ownership over your own actions, right? A little bit more responsibility. But Ben Shapiro, of course, never wants Republicans to ever take ownership of their own actions. It's only the other side. It's the Democrats that never want to take ownership of their own actions. Shift the blame away to others, though. Good job.
There's zero evidence that Kyle Rittenhouse is a white supremacist. Not some, zero. Like, as in none. Zero, zip, zilch. Joe Biden is calling Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist. When Joe Biden jumps in and he says, the Proud Boys. Okay, the Proud Boys are probably what you would call alt-light. They're not overtly white supremacists.
Wait, why would you? He admitted. Why did he just admit that? By the way, I don't know if Kyle Rittenhouse is a white supremacist or not. I'll be honest with you. Like, some lefties will jump the gun on that and will immediately be like, of course the white supremacists took a gun. There is at least enough evidence for me to be suspicious of his behavior, taking an AR-15 to go to a Black Lives Matter protest and counter-protest with a show of force, where you literally gun up with your comrades who are actual white supremacists. So I don't know. I don't know if he is or not. I would still need more information on that matter. But as far as the Proud Boys goes, pretty funny that Ben Shapiro is saying they're alt-light. It is true. Some of the Proud Boys are absolutely white supremacists, but a lot of them are alt-light instead. They want to defend Western civilization from, immigration. Basically, the difference between alt-light and alt-right, as Ben Shapiro also knows, because he's a part of the alt-light, is that the alt-right does not tie all of the problems back to Jews. The alt-right, on the other hand, will be like, no, Jews are the reason. The alt-right, on the other hand, agrees with nearly everything that the alt-right says, but won't state that it's the Jews that are responsible. That's the only difference.
The Proud Boys can get violent. They are not a group that anybody should be associated with. I got a lot of problems with the Proud Boys. They are not overtly white supremacists. They're not. In fact, the founders of the Proud Boys disassociated from the Proud Boys, like Gavin McInnes. He tried, I believe, to disassociate from the Proud Boys when he thought that they were associating too closely with white supremacists. In any case,
going out the bat for Gavin McInnes is completely psychotic. Like, what a dumb thing to do.
Bottom line here is that if you actually read the exchange that happened right there, if you read the exchange, what you will see is that Trump repeatedly says, sure, I'm willing to condemn white supremacists. Here is the actual exchange again.
I'm failing to comprehend how Donald Trump saying stand by to the Proud Boys and then justifying their existence immediately after by saying it's the radical left that's the real problem is actually denouncing them. What is he supposed to? What more could he have done in that circumstance that would lead you to say, all right, whatever. Yeah, he wasn't denouncing them. Like, the hilarity here is this is a gigantic self-own. The reason why this is a gigantic self-own is because he did something that is fundamentally flawed that a lot of Republicans don't do, which is ever admit to racism. Like, ever even admit to being tangentially associated with racism. Ben Shapiro just fucked up by saying, yes, the Proud Boys absolutely do have problems. Even the founder tried to disassociate, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's dumb. You don't win that argument after. There is no like, oh, well, the founder of the KKK tried to disassociate. So Trump saying the KKK needs to stand down is actually just him saying, him denouncing the KKK. Oh, well, technically, Trump said, stand by to the KKK, which is why it's okay because it's actually denouncing the KKK. He said, stand down, stand by. He said, stand by, stand down, stand by. They followed that up with a justification for why they need to do something. He says, stand back and stand by, not stand down.
Stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland. Okay, so first of all, in Kenosha, that was not a white supremacist group. In Portland, Patriot Prayer is not a white supremacist group. So the basis of the...
Come on, dude. Patriot Prayer is not a white supremacist group. That white supremacist terrorist on the max that killed a veteran after harassing 2 Muslim girls, was an avowed white supremacist and a part of the Patriot Prayer. And the guy who recently got killed in Portland is on the record defending him and saying that it's all right. Like, I can't believe they're calling him a white supremacist terrorist. Like, he's literally a white supremacist terrorist. These are the Patriot Prayer members. They are absolutely just as much, if not more, focused on white supremacy than the Proud Boys. He only said it like that because he doesn't want to take credit for white supremacists. If he acknowledges that it's his job to announce, he acknowledges that they're tied to him. Well, I already said that. I said that in the aftermath of the debate as well. But the problem is, I can say that, but Ben Shapiro can't say that because I know that Donald Trump doesn't want to take credit for white supremacists, despite also trying to take credit for white supremacists, because he knows that there are white supremacists in his constituencies.
And Trump says, what do you want to call them? Give me a name. And Wallace says, white supremacists and right-wing militias. And Biden says, Proud Boys. And then Trump says, Proud Boys stand back and stand by. Now, it is the and stand by that's killing him, right?
Why? Stand back and stand by. This is next level cope. Okay, I've never seen someone cope this hard. This is not even a good job. Like, if I was Ben Shapiro, I would have just been like, he didn't know what the Patriot Prayer was. Why should anybody know what the Patriot Prayer is? They're irrelevant. And even though they're irrelevant, they're not even white supremacists. They're not even racist. Just lie. This is what you've been doing for the longest time. Why aren't you just fucking lying? You can't simultaneously admit that, like, they're white supremacist adjacent, but, like, not white supremacist enough, and then try to justify the president literally saying stand back and stand by, and then immediately justifying why they need to exist because Antifa are the real terrorists or whatever.
And then he says somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left. He didn't mean the Proud Boys have to do something about Antifa and the left. You can tell that from his inflection. He means that nobody.
Oh, he didn't. He didn't mean, like, the group that he immediately told to stand by. He meant someone else. Got it. I mean, dude, there's no way this works, right? There's no way. Only 24,000 likes, 500 dislikes. Wow. This motherfucker, the left calls anyone and everyone who doesn't agree with their side white nationalists or white supremacists. Well, so did Ben. Why are you watching him then? I think at this stage, this is exactly like Donald Trump using a false equivalency that would hurt him as a talking point. The level that conservatives are on at this stage is that, oh, you're a conservative? You're probably functionally defending my argument, so I'm just going to hit like and move on. It's wild to me that the people that are watching Ben Shapiro are not even aware that there is, like, a multitude of self-owns here where Ben Shapiro is even admitting, and then his defense of Donald Trump is so weak. Oh, it's the inflection of his voice. Like, come on, dude.
He's doing anything.
Don't pretend that Wallace's question wasn't dishonest by framing the question with stand down. It forced Trump to take direct ownership of white supremacy. You're doing it again. You're admitting that those groups are white supremacists. Either you have to say that they're not white supremacists, they're just proud Trump supporters, or you admit that they're white supremacists and you fucked up. You recognize that, right? Because those guys are Trump supporters. They wear MAGA hats. They love Donald Trump. You got to either keep it at the level and claim that they're not white supremacists, or that they're not even white supremacists adjacent, and that they're just God-fearing, honest-to-God, Republican good men and women, which is what they used to do, which is what Republicans used to do like 4 or 5 years ago. But now, after 4 years of, like, terror on the streets caused by people like that, most people recognize that these are not people you should be associating with. You can't have it both ways. Like, he's putting Trump in a bind. Well, the bind there is that Trump admitted, or there's an admission that everyone is engaging in now, that, like, the Patriot Prayer is at the very least white supremacists adjacent or have white supremacists in their ranks, which they do. So that's the fault there. That's the problem there. You admitted that you understood why he did it to keep the vote, a lot of his constituency. Do you think Trump is racist or just appealing to his race audience? I think Trump is racist in the sense that, like, a old dude is, like, an old white dude would be racist, or like a rich old white dude would be racist. But also, it doesn't matter if he's, like, personally racist or not at this point. Like, he has emboldened white supremacists his entire political career. So who gives a shit? When you're the president, it literally doesn't matter. If you're emboldening white supremacists, like, what's the difference? That's such a dumb take. It's a dumb take when the president is literally running defense for white supremacists and has done consistently, from defending David Duke or, like, not immediately denouncing David Duke, something that even Nazis know, something even Nazis expect every person in a position of power to do so. You know that, right? Like, Nazis themselves denounce other Nazis once they're outed in an effort to make sure that they themselves are not unmasked as Nazis, because everybody knows that Nazis are bad. So when you're outed as a white supremacist, you absolutely denounce that person. The joke on the internet amongst alt-right and Nazi circles is disavowing someone, because you automatically disavow them when they're unmasked and when they're outed. The president not immediately disavowing Nazis, like unconditionally, without saying, well, there were very fine people there, anything like that, because automatically, if you are marching side by side with people who are saying Jews will not replace us, you're not a good guy. You're a sympathizer. You're a Nazi sympathizer. And that is not something that any president should ever embolden, ever. It's literally the bare minimum. It is such a low bar to clear that, once again, even Nazis expect the president to clear it, despite also knowing that the president will give them a hat tip every now and then. You're literally reliving 2016 and it's hilarious. Enjoy your copium overdose next month. Wait, I still think that Trump has the capability of winning. It's going to be through cheating, but I'm still terrified of Trump potentially securing a second term. Why do Trump supporters have nothing to show for 4 years of Donald Trump, so they still run with that unironically 2016 era liberal tears line? I mean, listen, the real copium is living under the awful conditions set before you by the president that you thought was going to save you, and then turning around and only trying to find a crumb of happiness by making sure your neighbor is crying because Donald Trump got reelected. You know what I mean? That's the real copium. I'm going to be fine, brother, to a certain degree. Probably better off than you, that's for sure. Okay, maybe I won't be fine, but under 4 more years of Donald Trump, I might not be fine. But the real cope in that circumstance is you trying to cope with the reality that Donald Trump hasn't really significantly improved your life or improved your life at all, and you're super fucked. You're in this shit with us, but the only thing that gives you maybe a moment of solace, a moment of comfort, a shred of comfort is like, maybe liberals will be owned again if Donald Trump somehow wins it. The best comfort of solace is knowing that there's a real possibility of Roe v. Wade being overturned. Again, that's literal cope, dude. You have absolutely no business trying to overturn Roe v. Wade. 75% of the country don't agree with you. You're excited that your president will lie, cheat, and steal to do something that is deeply unpopular, and he won't do it, by the way. I don't believe that Trump will overturn Roe v. Wade. I don't think that the Supreme Court justices will do that. I'm just letting you know. So it's just that I think it's better off dangling it in front of idiots like you as a carrot so you keep voting for him because you're a fucking moron. But again, that's actual cope. What's it to you? Like, what is it to you that women aren't forced to carry pregnancies to term? It literally does not impact your life in a meaningful way, one way or the other. Imagine that being the only thing that keeps you going when Donald Trump is destroying this country with gigantic tax cuts for those same corporations and the same wealthy elites that turn around and still vote liberal, by the way, and definitely vote Republican as well. Those guys that took these industries out of America and moved the manufacturing jobs overseas, the same people that you voted for Donald Trump for claiming he was going to punish, literally gave them whopping tax cuts and deregulated industries for them so that they could destroy your clean water supply, so they could destroy your environment, fuck over your future, and destroy America. And the only thing you have in your hand is like, oh, well, maybe, just maybe, he will overturn Roe v. Wade. That's pathetic.